Hey, hey, pretty baby, pretty baby.
Every day you have a decision, whether you want to settle for good or push for great. You have to push for greatness. Alrighty, and we're back. This is Saturday now, so I haven't done a video in a couple days. I was doing some training, but nothing really major on the bike, nothing worth really a video in its own right. Today, Saturday, is the first real workout back. 2 sets of 4 times 2 minutes. This time at a goal power of 390 watts on a ridiculously short 30-second recovery. Anyways, afterwards I'm going to give you a little bit more insight into the race in Peru from last week. Just what actually the week leading into the race looked like. And then yeah, we're back. We're back to the daily vlogs. So excited to start what feels like kind of the next phase of the season now that we've got the first one underway. So we'll check back in after this workout. See you in a bit. That was good for our first one. I think it was 395 average. All right, we'll check back in a little bit. So today what I want to look at is just the difference in the week leading up to my first race of the season last year in Marbella 70.3 and the week leading up to the first race this season in Peru 70.3. Alrighty, so here we have the week leading up to 70.3 Peru on Training Peaks. Now, I wouldn't hold the TSS as like a gold, like as the be-all and end-all of things here, because the TSS, I haven't actually allocated a TSS to some of the strength workouts that occurred during this week. So the TSS is probably a little bit higher, but for swim, bike, and run, this will be pretty accurate. I want to just draw your attention first of all, because this is the main thing I wanted to show you. Here's this year's. So this year, in the week of the race, I had 11, and this is including race day, I did 11 hours and 20 minutes of training. So you got to figure race day is 4 hours, okay? So that makes it around 7 hours and 20 minutes of training in the 6 days leading into the race. Now, the weekend before was a big weekend, but we're just focusing on this immediate week so that we can compare, because we were doing different things last year in terms of the weekly schedule, but in terms of the 6 days before, that means that over 6 days you have roughly an hour and 10 minutes of training. So you can see on Monday was a very easy day. Okay, so this is this year. Okay, so Monday was a very easy day. It just had an hour-long swim. Now, Training Peaks only takes the actual swim time. It doesn't take into account recovery time. So it says 53 minutes there, but it was an hour swim, I remember. So it's an hour swim, so TSS of 47, so very small swim, and then some physio exercises after. That's it. Day's over. Tuesday, a harder swim, but still, if you look at it, it's actually only 2,200 meters. So that's a taper style swim. And what we're doing there is you can see breakouts. So I did things like, I think it was 2x50, and I wrote it in there, but I'm not going to go into that. But it was 2x50 short recovery, straight into a 200 tempo, and then 2x25 as hard as I could into a 100-meter tempo, and repeated that through a couple of times. Then, so this is it's a pretty hard day intensity-wise, but not that much volume. So you can see I did that, and then I did the next installment, which you saw, that was the 3-minuters at 375. That was the one I put in a video as the last workout before Peru. So that was a very hard workout, but again, only an hour long. So on the entire day, you're looking at roughly an hour and 40 minutes of training. Then this is Wednesday now. Wednesday's the traveling day. So I did 15 minutes of core. That's it. Then I did a run on the treadmill. That run had 5 times a minute, minute on, minute off of pickups. And you can see they were at around 3 minutes per kilometer pace. And then did some 50s in the pool, but all pretty moderate kind of tempo-ish pace. So not crazy hard. But again, if you look at the total volume on the day, we're looking at 35 minutes. You're looking at around an hour and 10 minutes of training. And then I traveled. Then Thursday. This is where we get to the bike store. So you can see it's all just the biking. So you can see we did just like the TSS is 2 because like we were just pedaling through traffic. So we went to the bike store, then just a little warm up. Then the Zwift race, that's the 76 right here as TSS in 50 minutes. And then back from the bike store, TSS of 1. Okay, so it must have been really low power on the way back. But again, in terms of volume, you're looking at roughly an hour and 50 minutes, but that's heavily influenced by 48 minutes of going through traffic. But so in terms of actual training volume, I would consider that an hour-long training day. If you look at the Friday, you saw that run. It was just a 30-minute 4-mile run, 10 minutes of core following up after that, and then a ridiculously short 15-minute swim because the waves were too high. So I ended up cutting it really short and not getting much in. Day before the race, only a 1K long swim, some pickups in there, not much, and then race day. We've talked about race day. Those are all the times that I got on my watch. So 225 high, and then 209.26, and then 117.54. Okay, so that ends up being 3:57 on the time. So if we look at it, I'm gonna go to Marbella in a second because this is where it gets interesting. Keep this number in mind: 11 hours and 19 minutes, and a TSS of 660. Keep that in mind. Okay. Now, let's go to Marbella 70.3. You already right away see a lot more stuff. Total duration in the week leading into Marbella, 19 hours and 34 minutes, almost double. TSS, again, not taking into account strength training, TSS of 1,031, almost double. So bike volume, 335 kilometers. Compare that to a bike volume of 174, so literally double. Okay, now here's what's just crazy. So you saw in the Peru that yes, there was some quality, not much. The quality was mostly in terms of pickups, accelerations, stuff like that. Nothing sustained. We weren't doing any tempo work of any kind really, other than that swim on the Tuesday that had like 200s, but that's not that long of like a volume at pace. Let's go to Marbella. This is crazy. The more I look at the more I'm like, holy moly, what on earth was I doing? Okay, so Monday, travel out to the race. Here's the first day in Spain now, the first full day in Spain. So I wake up in the morning. I go on a 15-minute run. I do a recon ride. That ride is 2 hours long. TSS wasn't that high because most of it was pedaling through traffic, but then I went and hammered the climb, and it's a 20-minute long climb roughly, and did it at FTP. Actually, it's a little less than 20 minutes. It's probably 15 minutes, then there's a descent, and then there's another climb. Total, it's probably around 35 minutes of work, and in that there's a little descent, but climbing a mountain at FTP. So I believe I was climbing that at around 315 to 320. Okay, come back, do 20 minutes of strength, and then in the evening, we head out and do a 3K tempo, around I think it was 330s in that range, and then did some strides after that for a 50-minute run. So if you look at the day as a total, we ran twice and ran about 10 miles of running, about an hour of running. So you're looking at around 3 hours and 20 minutes of training. Already you're seeing a difference. It gets better. Just wait. Wednesday. Wednesday, we go up that same climb again. Do a minute on and minute off. The minute ons were at 400 watts. So we're doing 10 times a minute at 400 watts. Second climb, the second one in that little thing I talked about, and then sweet spot up the second climb. We get back, we do a little strength work, and then we go on a 3K swim roughly with another pro who was at the race, and I had to swim really hard to keep up with him. So it ended up being a real hard swim, okay? Then in the evening, went on a 7K easy run. Thursday, I basically, as you can see, I basically biked the entire course. That was a 2 hour and 50 minute long ride. Then I did an open water swim, and then I did a run workout in the evening, which was a 39-minute 10K overall, and the run workout included 2 miles at tempo pace, so those were at 5:30 per mile, and then I did a 1 minute mile after that. All right, 1 minute mile, 5 minute mile after that. 1 minute, that'd be really impressive. 5 minute mile after that, so around 3:06 per kilometer. So, as you can see, on that day, you're looking at around 4 hours straight up of training. With the 2 hour and 50 minute long ride, and then an hour and 10 between the bike or the swim and the run. On Friday, once again, I still don't feel comfortable on the descent. So once again, I go out and I do what would be an hour and a half, roughly long climb or ride in the evening with another climb in it, doing that same climb to do the same descent again. Open water swim, another almost 3 kilometer long swim, a brick run right off that bike, and then day before the race, I still don't feel comfortable on the descent. So what do? I go up the climb again. I do over-unders on that. So I'm going over threshold, under threshold, over threshold, just under threshold for around 15 minutes. And then up the second climb, I hammer it up at threshold. I come back, I run to and from, I think that was race kit pickup, and then I do a little bit of a swim. Nuts. Absolutely nuts. As you can see, a total TSS of over 1,000 and just off of 20 hours of training. That means leading into the race, because let's just take the race as a constant. That means leading into the race, you did 15 hours of training going into my first race of the season last year. And the first race of the season in the 6 days leading into it. And in the 6 days leading into this year's race, that means I did 7 hours of training. More than double the amount. And in terms of quality and TSS, not only in terms of just volume was huge, that's almost a bike workout every single day leading into Marbella 70.3, because I included a climb every day, and every single time had some quality up that climb, whether it was going at FTP or doing a minute on, minute off, or doing over-unders that day before the race. Crazy. So here's the lesson from this. I mean, it's not rocket science here, is that respect the taper. You've done the work, respect the taper, and taper hard. The harder you can taper, the better you can taper, the better you can perform on race day. I think the main thing that it comes down to is you might say, well, this was just stupid heading into Marbella 70.3. But I think a big part of that is, A, like I said, not realizing how important the taper is. But B, the other component is if you're wondering why the heck I was doing all of that before, it was really the fact, like I said, I did not feel comfortable on that descent. And that was because I hadn't ridden outside for months and months leading into the race, like I've talked about ad nauseum, it seems, a number of times now. So I felt like I needed to do the descent every single day. And well, the fact of the matter is the only way that you can do the descent is if you do the climb. And that climb is such a challenging climb that it was going to be awfully difficult to just, pedal in the smallest gear you have at 150 watts. You were never going to be at that low of a wattage going up that climb. So I think a lot of this, when you compare the two races, you look at just in terms of how you set up your season as being such an important thing, and that is not picking a race first thing in the season that's going to require a lot of technical skills. Peru, I didn't feel the need to go outside crazy amount of times before the race. I didn't ride for 2 whole days leading into the race. I rode the bike once outside there to and from the bike store. So I think, yes, respecting the taper is the first component, or the first point that I'm making here. In the week leading into the race, less is more. So take that lesson. And then the other thing, like I said, is I think the bigger thing is planning your season well, so that race number 1 of the season isn't going to require a huge amount of technical skills for someone as coming from Northern Hemisphere, I'm saying, where you've been riding on a trainer for 8 months. Because in Peru, like I said, I didn't feel the need to go outside because the course had zero technicality to it. There were two turnarounds per lap, and that was it. So yeah, I think it's really interesting looking at those two, and you can see on race day, I clearly performed better in Peru, especially on the bike. The bike in Marbella, I mean, it's hard to compare, but in terms of, and we'll look at this more, in terms of power and the feeling on the bike ride, there was a big fade in Marbella, and I remember this in the second half of that bike, I was fading very quickly. And if you look at the training leading in the 6 days leading into that race, it's not that much of a mystery why there was a significant fade. Anyways, as usual, thanks so much for watching. If you like, hit that subscribe button, really appreciate, and I'll see you tomorrow.